Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast. Today with Jacob Maggerdan.
Joey Simmons.
Jacob Mitchell.
Poppy Cantrell representing the Broncos, Jags, Commanders, and Chiefs in this draft, looking to make an impact.
Poppy is bringing it all here today. He's got his teams already marked up, ready to go. Um, Obviously, we talked about it last mock draft. We'd be starting today off with some trades. And I'll just preface this with Joey isn't happy with moving up to one. It's not what he wants to do, but I think it is the most common rumor amongst the draft community. And one of the better ones that I saw recently was I can't remember his first name, but it's Albright on Twitter. And he made a Twitter post that said, I think there's a huge trade coming, a gigantic one, or a giant one. It could be Titanic. So he was hinting at Giants, Titans. And then while they were at the combine, new GM for the Titans, Mike Borgonzi, and then, of course, GM for the Giants, both stepped off the field together. So that was definitely a big moment there, hinting again at the potential of those two teams making a move. And I just think it's the most likely thing for the Titans to do would be move down to either three or, of course, six with Jay Mitch's team. But today we're going to do moving down to three. And then I guess that's how we'll start it off. Joey, you can go ahead and you can make the pick here at number one.
As Maggard mentioned beforehand, I'm not happy with this. I like staying at three, but in this scenario, it's very realistic, sadly. I'd honestly rather trade back than trade up for the number one. But I think in this scenario, I kind of have the drafting fatigue of Shedeur Sanders. So with my number one pick, I'm going to take Cameron Ward from the old Miami Hurricanes. I think he's a very talented player. I think, as we were talking about before we filmed, he has a higher ceiling, and as previously mentioned in the other videos, he's succeeded everywhere he's been. Incarnate Word, Washington State, Miami, no matter where he went, he's been really good. So, I'd be happy with this pick. Now, I'd rather stay at three, but I think Cam Ward is great. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think Cam Ward, again, a successful guy that has had tons of success in general in his career. And he just comes into a system that needs a quarterback to succeed ASAP. And really, I think the move more is for the fact of they have to win. If Daboll wants to keep his job, they have to win. If they lose and they lose bad again, it's most likely that GM and coach are fired. That's just what happens if teams are unsuccessful for multiple years. I mean, the Titans have just went through that whole situation of firing guys and trying to figure it out at quarterback. And so that's kind of the big reason for that move. And then, of course, the next thing here is the Browns at two. And so far, the Browns have stood still and said that they're not moving Myles Garrett. He's way too good of a player and that nobody could offer them anything to make them make that move. So I'm going to have them going with the number one overall player in the class and Travis Hunter on this board, of course. And again, they're a team that they can use upgrades at every position on the field. But if you can get Hunter in there, who can be a lockdown corner, but also play some really crucial receiver snaps for you, it just makes too much sense. Again, a guy that definitely has the potential to be the best player in the class, especially if he expands his horizons and plays, every snap on both sides. Which again, it's very unlikely, but nothing is impossible. This, again, is the perfect scenario for the Titans, in my personal opinion. It would be moving down to three. You would even have the option to take quarterback if you wanted to. But again, I think they would go Abdul Carter here at three. There is a little bit of a worry about the recent injury news, but it's something that he isn't concerned about and his agent isn't concerned about. Going to be a small fracture in his foot that they could have surgery on. But instead, he just didn't do anything at the combine, and he's going to work out at his pro day, which would be enough time for him to heal. And really, again, an injury that we've seen in the past that really didn't do a whole lot. Julio Jones had this exact same injury in his foot prior to being drafted, and I think we saw what happened with Julio Jones's career. And the injury really didn't hold him back from being drafted in that draft. Now we move into number four, and of course, we've talked about making trades. This is our mock with trades. And you guys see what player is available. It's Shedeur Sanders, a guy that very easily could drop to six and could be a pick there. But there's a team right behind them at number seven who desperately needs quarterback help. And they're going to trade up here. We're going to have the Jets and the Patriots making a trade. The Jets, again, a team that has just dismissed Aaron Rodgers and said that he is not coming back to play for them. And the Patriots are a team that don't really want to pick a tackle at this position. They'd like to move down because the tackle will still be available at seven. And this is in the division, so it definitely makes this trade less likely. But I think if they were willing to give up a pretty good hefty trade, I think the Patriots would take it. So in this scenario, we're gonna have them going 742 and a second in next year's draft. Again, very rich trade to move up and get a guy that doesn't have a super high ceiling, as we think anyways. But it does shore up the position. It does give you a quarterback, and you don't have to worry about that. New coach in there as well, so he can kind of develop the guy the way he wants to. So we're going to go Shador Sanders here at number 4 to the Jets. Again, he comes in, he starts from day one. He doesn't really have any competition in the quarterback room. He does have a great weapon in Garrett Wilson, who could get moved this offseason, but if he's there, it's definitely a great player for him to develop with. And he's also got a running back in the backfield that can catch passes, has had a lot of success at times in his career, and is expected to be a good running back. So Shador goes into a situation where he's playing in New York, and that is we've talked about it with the Giants. It's the same thing with the Jets playing in the same stadium, that you're going to have that hype around you. You're in New York. The media loves that. And I think that Shador, as a player, will also love the hype coming in from New York media, putting him at number 4.
Yeah, before I make my pick, I just want to add to that. I agree with you. I think this is the best situation for Shador coming into that talented offense. And I think it's very, very important that the Jets get a quarterback and don't waste another year of Garrett Wilson in this talented roster. So we need to see a good quarterback in there. But for my 5th pick with the Jaguars, there's one name I see left, and it's Mason Graham. I'm taking best available player. There's a chance that the Jaguars coach could just really love Mikael Williams or one of these other defensive guys and take him. But Mason Graham makes the most sense for me here.
And like you said, Mason Graham, BPA, he is clearly the best player available in my personal opinion. Again, these blue chip prospects that don't come around very often. This year, you've got 3 that are considered to be players that could be a top 5 player at that position sometime in their career, being Hunter, Carter, and Graham. And Mason Graham just makes a ton of sense for a D line that definitely needs help on the interior. Again, you add a guy who is a blue chip prospect there.
I completely agree with you. For the 6th pick, I think the Raiders are going to take Tedero McMillan. I think that we really need to shore up that wide receiver room. We have some pretty decent receivers, but no number 1 guy, you know.
Yeah, I think that that's a great addition for the Raiders. I think we've already mocked that before, and I just think it makes a lot of sense. I think that their offensive side, they definitely have to add quarterback at some point this offseason. But again, they have the ability to go out and get one. They have a guy in Tom Brady working in the front office that can definitely convince a quarterback to come down there and play for them. And if you just bring him in weapons, whoever that quarterback is, you can just surround him with weapons, and it helps him succeed. And I could see them upgrading at a multitude of positions on the offensive side, receiver, running back, even, and receiver does make a ton of sense there at 6. At number 7 here with the Patriots, they move back for the reason of taking Will Campbell at 7. It is definitely a much better position for them to be in. They get Will Campbell, they get draft capital, gets them an extra second next year, and I think they would be excited with that move. Definitely, that would be the best move for them. They gain capital, get a guy that if he does shift down to guard, it isn't as bad if you take him at 4, where you're taking him at 7, you got the capital, he shifts down to guard, and he has potential to be a superstar guard. I just think that if you can stick at tackle, it's obviously a more important position, and you want to protect a guy in Drake May who's your future at quarterback. I'm moving into pick number 8 here with the Panthers. I think there's a lot of ways the Panthers could go. I think that there's guys from this week's combine that have really bumped their draft stock. One of those names being Shamar Stewart, an absolute freak off the edge, arguably had the best week at the combine. He measured in some ridiculous stats, ran well, jumped high, had an amazing broad jump, looked good in his on-the-field drills. Again, a guy that I think has solidified himself as a top 10 pick. I'm going Shamar Stewart at 8 to the Panthers. And he is a guy that doesn't have a ton of production on paper. You go back and look at his season last year and you're thinking, man, that's a little bit rich to take him at 8 whenever we got guys like a James Pierce who's produced or even a Mike Green. But Shamar Stewart, again, his RAS score, if you do not know what that is, that's how they measure players' athleticism. He graded out number 1 out of 1,800 edge rushers to ever perform in the combine. He was the number 1 player in the history of the combine in his athleticism score. That kind of guy has the potential to be a superstar, if not a Hall of Fame level guy, if he can figure out the on the field stuff that isn't just from his body, his athleticism, but football IQ, play recognition. Again, the potential is through the roof here, and I love taking Shamar Stewart at number 8 for the Panthers.
Yeah, I'll be taking number 9 with the New Orleans Saints, and I think that they can really shore up their defense by getting some pressure, a good edge here. I'm gonna go ahead and take Mikael Williams. It could be that we look back on this and one of the five other edge rushers end up being better than him, but he is, in my opinion, the best one left. So that's why I'm going with him at number 9.
Yeah, and again, this is a defense that needs help. This is a team that is struggling with cap situation. So an edge rusher makes a ton of sense. Again, they don't have to pay this guy the kind of money they'd have to go out and pay an edge rusher in free agency. And he can come in and be a super effective edge rusher. Very good at Georgia. Did have a lot of production, unlike the guy ahead of him in Shamar Stewart. And it just makes a ton of sense for boosting a defense that needs help in the Saints.
I'll be picking 10th for the Bears. I mean, last season we watched the Bears. We watched Caleb Williams get beat over and over and over again. It's kind of sad to watch, honestly. So I think that they're definitely going to go tackle here and Kelvin Banks Jr. I mean, you found your quarterback, you found your guy. Now you need to protect him, and I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah, and I think Kelvin Banks is a great pick because Kelvin Banks brings you the potential of moving down to guard, which they also need. They can use honestly, any lineman. They could even pick a center if they wanted to. Again, I think they go guard or tackle for sure, though. And Banks brings you the ability to stay at tackle, and if he's really good there, then you love that. But if he moves down to guard, he's going to be a super effective guard as well. It just brings you a lot of value at pick 10.
Yeah, I pick 11 here for the 49ers. I think we go DB here. You've seen him fall a little bit here. Will Johnson out of Michigan has all the tools. Obviously, you're a little worried about his injury that happened this season, but he's really talented, probably the best DB in this draft, honestly. And if he can stay healthy, he'll be amazing. I think he slots in right at that CB1, CB2 position and boosts up that Niners defense.
Yeah, and that pick makes a ton of sense for Shanahan. It's the kind of player that he likes to go out and draft. This is a big corner with lengthy arms. That's very important for covering somebody on the outside. He is a very good ball hawk type of player. Again, he had 2 interceptions returned for pick sixes in the first 6 games of the season last year. So you can just expect him to be a playmaker on the defensive side. Again, Shanahan loves those kinds of players. At pick 12 here with the Dallas Cowboys, this is just easy. I mean, it's been easy to make this pick in every draft. It's just Ashton Denty. He's way too good. They're a team that needs help on offense. They could even go with another receiver, but if Genty falls to you at 12, it just makes way too much sense to go out and get the best running back in the class, a guy that Jerry Jones obviously sits there and says, look at his production in college. There isn't a guy that has produced like this since Barry Sanders. So why would I not take this guy? Why would I not take this super high-level player? Ashton Denty, again, comes in, immediately bolsters that team, adds to their offense, and can be a superstar running back for a long time. With the 13th pick here, the Dolphins, again, this is a team that needs offensive line help. They have to protect their guy. Tua has faced a ton of injuries, and we have a guy that just performed at the highest level in the combine. Again, a guy that could go even as high as 10. He could even potentially be the first lineman off the board after the performance he put into the combine. I'm going Armand Membu, a guy that can shift down and play guard, but he has the length of arm. 34-inch arms is what they say you have to stick at tackle. Now, he is undersized, but he has the arm length. That is what's so important, and that's why a lot of these guys, like a Kelvin Banks and a Will Campbell, could slide to guard, is because of their arm length. Membu has that. He has freakish athleticism. He ran under a 5-second 40, and he is a 300 and some pound offensive lineman. He's a freak. He's just a freak athlete. Makes a ton of sense at 13. And the Dolphins get their guy to try to protect Tua and keep him healthy for a full season. At 14 with the Colts, again, this is a pick that we've kind of fell in love with making is Tyler Warren because it just makes a ton of sense for them to go out and draft him. But in this draft, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go Malachi Starks. We've seen him drop down the board a lot in these drafts. They need secondary help. Safety does make a ton of sense. And again, Starks didn't really hurt himself or help himself with his combine. He kind of just come out and did what he was expected to do. Ran a good 40 time, played well on the field. It looked good in his drills, and then he performed well in his athletic stuff. And so it just makes a lot of sense that the Colts go out and get their guy at 14 and Malachi Starks.
Yeah, here at pick 15 with the Falcons, their GM actually has not picked a defensive player in his 4 years with the team. I don't think it's going to change really here because I think I'm going to take Luther Burden. I think he'll fit well next to Drake London in the slot. Obviously, giving Penix another weapon, and he had, Roma Dunze and Jalen Polk at Washington. So, providing him with weapons will be very beneficial to his development, even though he's already a 24, 25 older quarterback. But I think it'd be a great weapon.
Yeah, and you continue the run of Fontenot not taking defensive players. I don't know what it is with him, but he just doesn't want to improve the defensive side. He's also been a guy that's been kind of scared to take Georgia players. As an Atlanta Falcons GM, you would think Georgia, that's down the road. I can go watch them play every week. You should be able to scout those guys, and for some reason, he just doesn't love doing it. And Georgia has produced quite a bit of talent that he could have picked in the last few years at 15. Again, you pick Luther Burden here. It's a guy that does make a ton of sense for a Falcons team that has a lack of receivers past London. Now you add the slot guy. If you do hold on to Pitts, again, he hasn't produced, but it's a guy that has a ton of potential, and I still think it's there. I mean, we saw one really good season from Pitts. You're just combining Burden into a group of guys that are already extreme athletes. I mean, Bijan tested really well. Pitts tested really well. Burden just tested amazing in the combine, ran a 4.3 something. And then London, again, a guy that tested well for his size in the combine. It just makes sense for Fontenot to make this move.
Yeah, I'll be taking pick number 16 with the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm so happy to finally be able to draft the player who I think will be the steal of the draft in Josh Simmons. I think that he will end up being the best offensive lineman in this class personally. And not only that, he'll be able to slide over to guard if they need him to. He has played against big colleges in the past, so he might be NFL ready. Coming from Ohio State, that's really going to help him to come protect his quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, this is a guy that has played in big time games multiple times for Ohio State. Facing that injury again is why he drops at all. He is a guy that very easily could have been the first tackle off the board without an injury. So I agree with you. He has the upside to be the best player in the class at the tackle position. And you get a guy that can protect Kyler Murray, who has faced injury. It just gives you more time to hit that big time weapon you took last year in Marvin Harrison. I like this move a lot for the Cardinals. I'll be picking here at number 17 with the Bengals, and they're loving the way this board has fell. They're going to get some defensive help here, big-time defensive tackle in Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Again, a guy that I've mocked here before. I think he makes a lot of sense. I think he personally is the best defensive tackle in the class. You could argue him with Harmon and Kenneth Grant, but they go out and get Walter Nolan, again, a guy that produced at Ole Miss last year on a really good defensive line. He was just a one-man wrecking crew on the inside. He didn't even need help. A lot of the times they would come out and, line him up at the nose tackle, and he would still get to the quarterback. And a lot of the time that's going through a double team to get there. Walter Nolan can be a game wrecker on the inside at 17 for the Bengals. Picking here at 18 as well for the Seahawks. This is a team that they do need a little bit of help on the offense, and you go out and you add a guy who's potentially the best offensive weapon other than Ashton Jeanty in the class, and Tyler Warren. The tight end from Penn State, again, a dominant run-blocking tight end, as well as one of the best playmaking tight ends in the class. He can line up anywhere, help you out a ton, and it's just a big-time boost to this Seahawks offense. I'll be picking here at 19 with the Buccaneers, but me and Joe have discussed this. In our trade mock, we're going to make a trade here. We're going to take the Chargers to move them ahead of number 20 with the Broncos. Again, a team that has really been in discussions with Colston Loveland. It just makes a lot of sense for, when we all know who their coach is, to come up and get him, his Michigan guy that he won a championship with. And they do need playmakers for Herbert. This creates that, again, just a phenomenal tight end. And Joey, I'll go ahead and let you make the pick.
Yeah, I will be taking Colston Loveland. No switcheroos here. I think we've done this in previous mock drafts. And I mean, I think it just makes so much sense, obviously, having Harbaugh take one of his former Michigan guys. I'd honestly like to take a receiver here too, but I think tight end fits him well in the way Harbaugh is going to draft, not the way I think he should draft.
Yeah, I'll be picking number 20 here with my favorite team, the Broncos. Before I take the pick, I just want to say this would be the craziest draft for a Broncos fan, because leading all the way up to pick 18, you're sitting there thinking, yes, we're getting a tight end, and then you see two tight ends go back to back, getting sniped from you. So that surprised us here. There's three ways I think we could go here. It's Matthew Golden, James Pierce to take a risk, and Omarion Hampton. And I personally am tired of our starting running back. I don't even want to say his name, so I'm not going to. We're going to take Hampton and try to hopefully get some help in the run game.
Yeah, and Omarion Hampton, again, is the clear number 2 in this class to me. A guy that was very, very good at North Carolina. And if we didn't have Ashton Jeanty, we'd have been talking about him all year as this superstar running back that just separated himself from everybody else. He is very, very good. He had a great combine. He ran really well for the size that he is. It is a downhill runner that can catch passes at a very high level. Again, it just brings you a guy that can make plays. The offense does need help. Like you said, you wanted a tight end because that's just a position that they definitely need, and just a playmaker they need. They have Sutton on the outside, but other than that, they've struggled at times to find other guys to produce. Marion Hampton comes in and immediately starts for the Broncos and gives them that weapon. I'll be picking at 21 here with the Stillers. I think that they love this. They're very happy about getting a star receiver in Matthew Golden. He's produced a lot, but he really helped himself with the combine. He boosted himself all the way at the top of the board. A guy that you could argue it may be the best receiver in the class. I do not think he is, but I think the combine has helped him with that. Again, running the best time out of all the receivers, and his teammate was saying he was going to do that. But Matthew Golden certainly proved he could run that fast and gets off the board here at 21. I'll also be picking at 22 with the Buccaneers. And this is a position that they could take the swing at James Pierce. There's also Mike Green still on the board, who I have loved them to take at 19. Produces really well. And then, of course, you also have a linebacker listed, but it will be an edge rusher in Jalen Walker, who is expected to go pretty high in these drafts. I wish he had tested. I think that hurts him not coming out and proving what he could do as an edge rusher. If he comes out there and blazes and runs a super fast time, it would have only helped him. But not doing anything at the combine, and also Mike Green not doing anything at the combine, it definitely hurt those guys, but I still love Mike Green here at 22. Again, the production is some of the best in the entire draft. A guy that led the league in sacks in college football last year comes in and immediately helps the edge rush for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll be making the pick here for the Green Bay Packers, a team that can use a little bit of help on offense or defense. Again, it's both going to be the weapons on the outside, a corner or receiver. But here, I think with the top receivers off the board, I'm going to go corner. A guy that really helped himself out with his combine, and Jahdae Barron was the best cornerback in college football due to his award that he won. Again, that's definitely arguable. But he did get the Thorpe. He's phenomenal in space. Again, we talked about this last time. You put him at the slot cornerback position. He could even drop back and play a little bit of safety, but with the way he ran, now people are saying, well, maybe he could even go on the outside and guard up on the best receivers, because the worry for him was he isn't going to run well at the combine. He's going to be more of that slot corner, play space. But with the way he ran, I mean, it was phenomenal. So Jahdae Barron, I think has definitely helped himself, secured himself a spot in the first round for sure. And I love him here to 23 to the Packers. Picking here at 24 with the Minnesota Vikings. To me, it's a pretty easy pick. This is a team that needs help on the inside. You have multiple defensive linemen available here. You could go Harmon, you could go Kenneth Grant. In this situation, I'm going to go Derek Harmon, another guy that really helped himself out of the combine. This is a guy that was already questionably a first-round pick or really early second-round pick. The combine definitely helped him out, get him up to 24. Vikings bolster that interior defensive line.
I'll be picking here with the 25th pick for the Texans. And, I mean, we saw a lot of regression with C.J. Stroud this season, and I think that they'll be losing a lot of receivers here. I think Stefon's gone, and Tank Dell, he's hurt. So I do think that they will be taking Emeka Egbuka. I think that will be a great pick for them. I think that he needs the extra help. I think that'll be great for him, honestly.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot for them there. At 25, they get a guy that will do the Tank Dell role, playing on the inside. Can be a slot receiver that was really good in college. And, of course, you pair him up with his quarterback. Again, you got to think that he's probably in the ear of his GM at 25 saying, man, I can go get the guy that I played with. He's great. Go out and get him, add Emeka to an offense that is already pretty good. And again, like you said, they're losing Stefon. They're losing Dell for the whole season due to his injury. And then when Dell comes back in the next season, you've got a combination of Nico, Dell, and Emeka Egbuka. It's a very deep receiver room, and I like that a lot for the Texans, which I don't like because I'm a Titans fan.
Yeah, here at 26 for the Rams, they're going to go O-line here, personally, I believe. I mean, you see the fall of a Tyler Booker. I don't think they necessarily need offensive guard, but I do think that he can help bolster up their O-line. I mean, that's been a big need. They also could go, linebacker here or corner, as you can see. But, I mean, I think Tyler Booker's great. Bolster up their offensive line a little bit.
I'll be making the pick here at 27, Baltimore Ravens. And it seems like the Ravens always get some athletic freak. Every year they draft really well, and they go in and add a guy that, with Shamar Stewart, who we mentioned earlier, probably had the best combine, Nick Emenwari. This is a safety that is standing at 6'3", almost 6'4". He shifted down and played linebacker sometimes for the South Carolina defense. And then he goes out and runs a 4.3. He jumps 43 inches in his vertical, which is fourth all-time and amongst tops for the safeties. He's an unbelievable player. Again, we talked about that RAS score, which is how they grade athleticism. This is a safety that graded out in the top 3 all time in safeties. And again, this allows them to move their guy and Kyle Hamilton around because last year they didn't get to play him where they wanted to play him a lot of the time due to the issues that they had at different positions on the field. Hamilton was just kind of a piece that is good anywhere. So now they get Nick Emmanwori. You can move him around better than you could Hamilton because he's a bigger guy. He can come down and play that linebacker role if you needed him to. But again, he slots in at that strong safety position perfectly. He's one of the better guys in this draft at the safety position.
I'm going to be picking 28 here with the Lions. I think that they'll probably pick James Pierce Jr. I mean, this is a fall that we've all kind of seen coming because of his, off the field problems that he's been having. And I think that Dan Campbell will be a coach that can maybe iron some of these things out and maybe like let him harness it to become a better player.
Yeah, I love that pick a lot. I think that, like you said, this is a guy that with talent is up there at the top. I mean, we saw his combine performance was also very, very good. He definitely got himself back in first round conversations because it's hard to argue the talent, even if the player is hard to coach, because if you can figure out how to coach him, he can come out there and really produce for you. We saw this situation happen with an edge rusher last year in the NFL with Hassan Reddick. That was a guy that was very good at times. He produced at a high level, but he did not want to play for the Jets. He's like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to play. So that he was like, trade me or I'm not touching the field. And he didn't for a long time. It just took them working things out to finally get him to play some football. But if James Pierce, if those issues don't exist and they really are just a rumor so somebody can get him late in the draft, it's phenomenal for a team like the Lions who need edge help in this one.
Okay, I'll be taking the next pick in the draft, 29 with the Washington Commanders. And I think this is a fairly easy choice here. I'm going to go Jalen Walker. This is a deep class for edge rushers. I think there's like 5 or 6 edge rushers that could all go in between picks 8 to 31. And you could argue any of them going up or any of them falling down. I'm super happy getting Jalen Walker here. I had him ranked personally above Mike Green and James Pierce. So for me, I like this, but it's a toss-up. Either one of those two guys I just mentioned could still be better.
Yeah, and Jalen Walker's a guy that has had a lot of hype in this draft process. There's been drafts that have him as high as 8th to the Carolina Panthers. And we've seen drafts where he falls out of that first round. I think him not working out of the combine has hurt his stock a little bit. A guy that had production on the field, but he was kind of one of those players that played different positions. He wasn't solely an edge rusher, which is what he will be in the NFL more than likely. He played at linebacker sometimes, step back in coverage and was playing that position. It's a guy that, again, I think he could be very easily listed as an edge because I think most teams want him as that in the NFL.
I like that you said that, Jacob, that he can play other positions because that can be something an NFL team really can use as well.
Yeah, and picking here at 30, this is a team and the Bills that just watched 3 really good defensive players go right before them. They're very upset with that because I think that they could have used any of those guys to bolster up this defense to face a team like the Chiefs, which they do every single year in the AFC Championship. I think they go out and they get a combine hero, as they like to call him. This guy was arguably one of the guys that boosted his draft stock the most. Goes out and runs a 4.27 in the combine, and Maxwell Hairston, a corner that can go on the outside, can match up against most teams' best guy, and can keep up with them for sure, if not be faster than most receivers. This is the kind of guy you match up on Xavier Worthy. You let him cover him up and down the field. He can keep up with them, and he showed a lot of potential. He was very, very good at the Senior Bowl. He was very, very productive in college, and he backs that up with a very good combine. Maxwell Hairston is a perfect pick here at 30 for the Bills.
Yeah, I'll be picking here number 31 for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that they're still scared to death after that Super Bowl that they just seen. I think it's a little bit rash to be that way because the Eagles are just a really good rush, but I think that they're going to go offensive line here, and in my opinion, the best offensive lineman left is Josh Conerly Jr. from Oregon. I think that the fans will like this. I think that they have to try something to get a good last season out of Kelsey, or last few seasons out of him before he retires.
Yeah, that's a great pick. This is, again, another guy that boosted himself up with his combine performance. He looked very good in his blocking drills. He also ran well in the 40. And again, that's not super important for an offensive lineman, but you look at that first 10 yards of the dash, which is kind of what we get out of the linemen. They don't really ever have to go 40 yards downfield to make a block. And he had a really good first 10 yards. So again, a guy that is above average as a speed at tackle position. He's above average size. He also has good arms. He is one of the guys that is a tackle that will stay at tackle, and that helps out a lot for the Kansas City Chiefs, who obviously need that after we watched Mahomes get sacked as many times as he did in that Super Bowl. I'll be making the last pick here at number 32 with the Eagles. The Eagles, again, are left with a lot of options. This is a team that doesn't need a whole lot to improve overall, but we made this pick in our first mock. He's still here after having a good combine. It's Jahad Campbell. He replaces Zach Bond. They can't afford to pay him. If they do, I think Jahad Campbell does not go here. He just doesn't make sense. They don't need that if they sign Zach Bond. But I think Bond's gone. You bring in Jahad Campbell, who, again, performed at an all-time level in that combine. And again, just a great pick for them. And they steal another really good player, as they always do in the draft process.
Yeah, my favorite pick from this draft. Just gonna go look through it. I like Loveland with the Chargers. I think it makes so much sense, much like a Genty with the Cowboys. I like James Pierce. I mean, as an Alabama fan, it feels kind of like blasphemous to even say that. But I mean, I think he's a really talented player if you can, make him coachable. Like Jacob touched on earlier. I mean, I think if any coach can do it, it's Dan Campbell. I like Tyler Booker here at 26 as well. I mean, we saw him in a previous mock draft going 13 to the Dolphins. I think he's a really talented guy. As a Bama fan, I really liked him.
Honestly, there's a lot of picks in this draft that I think fit very well. Not to pat myself on the back or anything, but I think Tedero McMillan is a absolutely like phenomenal fit with the Raiders. I think that we desperately need a wide receiver, and I think that this will hopefully open us up to getting some quarterbacks, and then or a quarterback, and then on top of that, I think James Pierce Jr. was probably my favorite pick from this draft. I mean, if any head coach can fix his off the field issues, it would be Dan Campbell. He's a very passionate coach. He knows how to get his players riled up. So I think that he could help this player off the field.
Yeah, as I look at this, the results from this mock, a few things that stood out to me is I like Malachi Starks going 14. I think he's too talented to be falling too much further than that. I also really like Shamar Stewart to the Carolina Panthers. I think the Panthers are a team that can afford to take a risk as they've never really won in the past. And then I really like the Jets moving up with that trade and getting Sanders. More so for Sanders than I do the Jets. I think he will really have success with them more so than any other team that has potential of getting him.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned Shamar Stewart. That was what I was going to say is my favorite pick because he is an athletic freak. And you look at production, and sometimes production can lie to you. He's one of those guys that if you actually go back and watch the games, he is constantly causing havoc. And again, he's a massive human being. He's 6'6", 270 pounds, and can run what he runs and jump like he can jump. It's just unbelievable. Again, the explosiveness is there. And as an edge rusher, that's one of the more important things is the explosiveness to get around a tackle on the outside. And of course, other than that, I love picks 27 to 32. I just think that this is a very deep draft, and all those teams address things that can really help them out. I mean, you're looking at Nicky Manwari, who had a phenomenal combine. You have James Pierce, who, like J. Mitch said, a guy that has the off-the-field issues, but he's going to a coach who can really fix those issues and get the most out of him. Jalen Walker, who is a guy that only dropped due to not performing at the combine. He had the potential to go all the way at number 8. You look at Maxwell Harrison, a combine hero, one of my favorite guys when I was watching the combine. You watched him run, and it was like, holy crap, I don't think anybody thought he had that in him. And then 31, the Chiefs addressed the biggest need on the team, which is that outside position at tackle, because the edge rushers got all over Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And then again at 32, I think Jahad Campbell is an absolute steal. I mean, I've had him going in one of our mocks as early as 11 to the Niners, and I think there's a lot of teams throughout this draft that could take him that need linebacker help. It's just, he somehow to me, he just feels like a guy that's going to fall and fit perfectly in with the Eagles who need a linebacker to replace Bond. And it just seems like a perfect pick for Howie Roseman, who always gets steals in the NFL draft. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Another great week for the mock. And as you can tell, we used a different software this time, or different website, I should say. And that's because we had to do the trades. If I was making money off this big time, I'd go out there and pay for that PFF subscription because PFF has a phenomenal draft board. I think it always looks the best anyways. But we are not doing that right now. So we're going with what is best for us, and that's the free Pro Football Network, which I'll call out as
Support our Patreon. Support our Patreon. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
We don't have one yet. But
Imagine if we had one. We'd get one going if we had some subscribers. But Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe, follow along. I'll probably be doing something this week with my combine heroes and losers. So the guys that I thought performed really well, the guys I thought did not. I kind of set up and just watched through every single minute of the combine. It was a lot, especially yesterday as I was sitting through. Well, you're watching this on Monday, but on Saturday the quarterbacks, receivers, running backs go, and it's a 7 hour day, and there's just a lot of stuff happening. And I like to sit there and kind of take in what I thought about players because there's some guys that the Titans are definitely looking at picking. If we wanted to go up and get a quarterback, those guys are going to be second, third round guys. And I'll call out a guy for an early spoiler that I thought was phenomenal at the quarterback position is Brady Cook, a guy that struggled a little bit this year at Missouri, but he was supposed to be really, really good. He was phenomenal in the combine. He goes out and runs a 4.6. He also was very good in his passing area of the combine. He was very accurate. He looked very good, and he had a really good zip on the ball. They let him throw. They throw a ball into a pad. It's just to test their arm strength, and he was amongst the better ones in that drill. So Brady Cook, a guy that maybe boosted his stock a lot, could go like third, fourth round now instead of going late in the draft. Because again, the season just wasn't great for him production wise. But Joey, if there's anything else you want to add, go ahead, pal.
Yeah, my combine hero is going to be Jalen Milroe by having his hands magically grow almost an inch, a full inch. It was like 3/4 of an inch over a span of a few months. I don't know how that's humanly possible, but if anybody can do it, it's my boy Jalen Milroe. But yeah, that being said, thank you boys for watching, and I'll let Jamich go.
I actually have two combine heroes. I love the way Jackson Dart went out there and performed. I'm very high on that quarterback. I am very disappointed that he did not run the 40, though. There were murmurs that he was going to run a 4.6, so
Mhm.
I would have loved to see that. But I think my other hero is someone who absolutely demolished the 40, Isaiah Bond. He just proved us all right, I guess.
Yeah, that performance was odd. Calling out that he could run a 4.1 and then running a 4.4 is interesting from him as a player. Again, we talked about earlier how Matthew Golden is the real Texas hero in the combine for the 40-yard dash. Hoppy, if there's anything else you want to add, pal.
Yeah, I just want to say thank y'all for watching. We have a great time recording these for y'all. And anybody that watches, we just appreciate y'all taking the time out of your day and watching us do these drafts. And that's about all. Peace.
Yeah, again, thank you guys so much. It is very fun. I always look forward to Sunday to do this. And maybe when we get towards draft season, we'll get some more thought or ideas in there. Maybe also look forward to probably next week. We'll probably look to do our first 2 round draft. It'll be back to doing no trades. If we're doing 2 rounds for the first time, I don't want to be having trades going around two. But we'll look at 2 rounds because this draft in general is pretty deep from like pick 20 to pick 64, where we're at the end of the second. There's a lot of guys that could go all the way from 64 to 20. So it's not so deep in the blue chip prospects at the top of the board, but it's very deep in guys that can make a difference from, again, 20 to 64. I think that there's a ton of talent, and you're going to be happy in the second round with pretty much anybody you can add because of that. And again, that's pretty much it for us, and peace.
Peace.